After the very popular stove video, here is a follow-up with more developments. I've installed the 20-watt fan, which is definitely an improvement over the 12-watt fan. It's bigger in physical size, and as I know from helicopter rotor blades, the bigger diameter fan runs slower will be more efficient than the smaller diameter fan running fast. After running the stove with the new fan, it's running much cleaner. Very little in the way of soot build-up. The pan in the bottom has a piece of 5mm thick stainless welded to it. There are two reasons for this. One, it keeps the sheet metal pan from distorting, and two, it retains the heat in the pan. This helps vaporize the oil. Another modification I have done is to increase the size of some of the air holes coming into the burn chamber. There are now 19 8mm holes and 22 6mm holes, giving a total inlet area as 572mm squared. The large hole in the bottom is not there for any reason. It gets blocked off by the pan, but should oil ever spill over the pan, it will drip onto the floor, giving the user an indication that something is wrong. The oil drip spout, you really want to be in the middle of the pan. I extended the pipe as it was too far to one side, and when ash built up, oil started to drip over the side of the pan and through the hole in the bottom onto the floor. It wasn't on fire, it just made a mess. It's now time to light again, and I've reduced the amount of starting oil stroke thinners mix to 50ml. If you have too much, you get too vigorous a start with booming ignition, bit like a backfiring car. It doesn't hurt to let it warm up before switching on the fan. You do risk blowing out the fire switching it on too soon. There is a definite roar with the new fan, much louder than the previous. The workshop is at 8 degrees Celsius at the start of the day. We will see what it gets to later on. This is a nice heat to set the stove, just glowing red at the bottom. Time for lunch, I think. Now, when preparing steak, it's important to have a hygienic surface. That's why I'm using aircraft grade 2024 T3. First, season the steak and then rub in some cooking oil. I prefer cooking oil over engine oil, although it's tempting to use, of course. Make sure both sides are nicely coated. Next, take a bulb of garlic and a Sykes Pickervant planishing hammer. Give a firm whack to the bulb and break into cloves. The ideal temperature for steak is 218 degrees Celsius. I have about 240, which should be fine. Pour some oil into the pan, then the steak, and set your timer. Turn every 2 minutes, and for this size steak, 8 to 10 minutes is medium. Add a generous amount of butter, and with all cooking, you can never have too much butter. Baste the steak with the butter and sear the steak on all the edges. Then add some thyme, that's the green stuff, and the cloves of garlic. Rub the garlic clove over the steak. To tell how well it's done, just prod it with your finger. If it jumps out the pan and takes off, it's too rare. Leave it on the plate to rest for a few minutes. Now to see if I've got this right. Looks good to me, which is an absolute miracle, but how does it taste? We now need some boiling water to wash up. Okay, back to work. We can see with the new fan there is very little to no smoke from the flue, which means the right amount of air is getting to the pot. With the new fan, the lid temperature is 225 degrees Celsius. Let's see what happens if I swap back to the 12-watt fan while keeping the oil flow rate the same. There is definitely more smoke from the flue, and the lid temperature has gone up by 75 degrees. I was expecting the opposite, so this is surprising. Swap back to the 20-watt fan and the temperature goes down again. So I have a choice between clean running and efficiency. Something to think about here. Any thoughts, please comment below. After a few hours running, the workshop temperature is now 13 degrees Celsius, but how much oil is the burner using per hour, I wonder? I've shut off the isolating valve but left the flow control valve in the same place. With the burner off, I can measure how much oil is being used by collecting it over a 15-minute period. I'm using 250 millilitres every 15 minutes, equating to 1 litre an hour. This is less than I was expecting, so a pleasant surprise. The smallest commercial waste oil heaters start at 2 litres an hour. Something that crossed my mind is the fan is extracting warm air out of my workshop, sending it up the chimney and drawing in cold air. It would make sense to add an outside duct for this air supply. Thanks for watching.